And one last thing, possibly something that people haven't heard of from you, is that the fact that you are an artist, you are a voice artist, you are an actor.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, your voice is beautiful. I mean, you could read me the manual of my washing machine, and I will still listen to it.
Well, that's very sweet of you. I do have some published audiobooks, which people are more than welcome to go and listen to if you can find them.
With pleasure. Send me the list. Yeah. G'day mobilers, welcome to the Reclaim podcast. And as you would notice today, I'm wearing a beautiful aerostat shirt. And that is in honor of the man who actually made it happen. I think that was back in 2023, October. And that man is Gregory Gottlieb. Thank you so much for being our guest. It's such an honor to have you.
No. It's an honor. Invited to participate. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, it's really great to have you on, particularly at this time when this such a big announcement has been made around this stuff. I imagine you've got quite a lot going on at the moment.
Just a bit. Yes.
Just a bit. Yeah.
And keeping it under wraps has been quite challenging, to be honest.
You did a good job, actually. I think you took back surprise quite a lot of people. And Mickey did hint a little bit of 20 kilometers here and there. But, there's so much happening out there, but you did a great job. And
thank you.
We're recording this just at the back of the Rare Evo where the WMS, the World Mobile Stratospheric, was announced. So we're going to talk all things aerial. Yes, Gregory.
World Mobile Stratospheric, singular.
Stratospheric, singular. Yeah. Thank you for the correction. But before we start, I think for those who are new to World Mobile and do not know who you are, Gregory, I'll do a quick, summary of your very, very long, 3 kilometer long LinkedIn page. Because your experience is huge. Now, I'll just be very...
We're going to go through it in great detail.
Oh, no.
There will be lots of questions,
Yeah. So, I mean, as of currently, you are the head of aerial platforms for World Mobile. And I think for over close to 3.5-4 years now. But
yes, I started at the back end of... 2022.
22, that's right, yeah. And if we go back 20 years, you are actually, I should be calling you Major Gregory, because you're a Grenadier Guard.
Yes, a bit more than 20 years. I retired from the Army in 1998. So, it is. It's about 20 years. It is more than 20 years.
It's getting towards 30.
It seems like yesterday, and some days, I have to tell you.
So if I'm not wrong, the Grenadier Guards, are those one dressed in red with the big hat, like the bearskin?
That's one of the things that I spent. I spent about a third of my 20 years in the British military guarding Her Majesty the Queen and members of the royal family and the palaces and the Tower of London, and being a tourist attraction, basically, and shouting very loudly, which is what we had to do.
Did you sit on the horse and yell at people that got too close? Or
I'm very fortunate. I actually grew up on a farm and I learned to ride on a donkey. Riding a horse is very different, and I didn't have to do it. Thank heavens. But no, I carried my sword. I did the changing of the guard ceremony at Buckingham Palace. I helped entertain heads of state inside the palace, quietly sipping gin and tonics with some amazing people.
And so you did wear the big bearskin. Big bearskin.
Wow.
In fact, my bearskin was manufactured in 1879. It's something that gets handed down from generation to generation within the regiment. And I had to fill some big shoes.
Yeah. Wow, that
sounds like a fascinating time.
Yeah, fascinating. And apart from that, you actually became a global expert in the LTA, so the lighter than air technology, being a former chair of the, so I have to look at the acronym, the AIAA, which is the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics.
Yes, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics Lighter Than Air Systems Technical Committee was the whole title, which is a bit of a mouthful. Yes, I chaired it back in the early 90s, actually, for a year. I am still technically a member of it, but haven't been able for several years to participate very much in what's been going on in the AIAA. But I am chairman of the Airship Association, which is a global body registered in the UK as a company that promotes the science and art of airships, which is one category of lighter than air vehicle. And I have to say that my colleagues on the Airship Association Council are not overly thrilled at the announcement of World Mobile Stratospheric, because it's not a lighter than air solution. But,
true, yes.
The interesting thing is there are both heavier than air and lighter than air solutions in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of space for both in the future industry. And so we've just gone with what we believe to be the most effective solution for World Mobile and the community. And it happens on this occasion that it's not lighter than air. But you will have seen from my career, I mean, I've worked for some, big aerospace giants. I don't think it says it on LinkedIn, but I was Boeing's subject matter expert for airships for a couple of years. And all of that grew out of a chance meeting in a bar, as these things do, back in 1990, when I was doing a master's degree in military technology as part of my mid-career training in the Army at the Royal Military College of Science at Shrivenham. I had to do a project, and they gave a list of 40 different projects that we could do as students on the course. They were all dreadfully boring, how to tweak the radar equation so that you could extend the range of radars, or, how to measure the trajectory of a shell going through the air without any, sensors or predict it. And I thought, none of this sounds interesting. And I happened to be in a hotel bar in London and met somebody who at the time was the international marketing director for a company called Airship Industries, the late George Spirou. And I told him about this. And he said, look, if you do a project on the military applications of airships, we'll lend you an airship. And I thought, wow.
Sounds
and
fun.
I had this vision, and all my colleagues were putting these complicated formulae on the whiteboard to explain their project. I would just say, gentlemen, if you look out of the window to your left,
there you go.
That's my ride.
Yeah. So I then, after my 1 year, I got my master's in military technology. The project was much loved by my colleagues on the course. I was then lent to the Ministry of Defense initially for 3 months, which turned into 6.5 years, to manage some quite interesting programs, equipment programs and research programs, some of which focused on lighter than air and the use of airships in the military in the 1990s. I worked closely with American colleagues in the US military as well, and we put together quite an interesting program. However, in 1997, the British government changed, and my program was one of several that were cancelled. And so I went back to my regiment and said, okay, when am I putting my red tunic and black bearskin back on? And they said, well, you've been in the Ministry of Defense for a very long time. Do you really want to come back to digging trenches? Because, we also did that. I said, okay, fine. So I left, went to work in a German airship company called Cargo Lifter, which I had 4 very happy years representing the interests of Cargo Lifter around the world and with the aerospace industry and with the defense sector. And then, unfortunately, we ran out of money.
Is that where you actually patented a spherical cargo lifter system that can carry up to like 100 tons, or?
We applied for the patent. Unfortunately, the company was liquidated before the patent was approved. But yes, that was my first patent.
Okay. Yeah, patents can get quite expensive, especially if you're going to a worldwide patent, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I was about fourth on the list of people who invented this. So it was mostly the work of the others, and I just had the idea. I'm not an engineer, but I used to manage engineers, and so that was.
You've been in the world of aerostat for years, like 20 years ago, I think, as you mentioned, in the U.S. Marine Corps. But so this has been your life, but in many different aspects of the industry.
Yes, but not just. I mean, aerostats and airships. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's been the lion's share of my work. But I'm also a pilot and a skydiver. So aerospace and aviation are my thing. And so I've worked with drones quite a bit, both in the military and commercial sector. And and anything aviation is my bag.
Yeah. And one last thing, possibly something that people haven't heard of from you, is that the fact that you are an artist, you are a voice artist, you are an actor. Yeah. And I have to admit, your voice is beautiful. I mean, you could read me the manual of my washing machine, and I will still listen to it.
Well, that's very sweet of you. I do have some published audiobooks, which people are more than welcome to go and listen to if you can find them.
With pleasure. Send me the list. For sure.
But I also do. Funnily enough, I've modeled for Vogue. So not just voice work.
On the back page, yeah?
No, actually. In fact, this was a few years ago when I was a bit more rotund than I am now. I've lost a bit of weight recently. And I was called by my agent in Dubai who said, "We want you for an underwear commercial for Vogue magazine." And I said, "Do you really want to see me wearing underwear?" And they said, No, you're a background extra. And I thank heavens for that.
If not, I would have, put the pictures here just on the footage, but nothing like this. Okay. Look, thank you for the intro. I think people get to know you a lot better now. And I thought before we start, there's two things we really wanted to cover. One is the aerostats. That we've seen, over in Mozambique. And the other part is obviously that WMS, the stratospheric part of things. And you actually brought me to tears almost when back in October that aerostat flew in Mozambique, and you made that phone call to Miki, and it was a very emotional moment where you said, "We made it. This is the very first phone call that I'm making, and it is to you, Miki." That was just great. So let's play the video first, and we'll come back to it.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Commence winch operations.
The winches. There she goes.
Close hauls running.
There she goes.
Yeah. We have main feather tension. Release close haul lines. Passing 100 meters.
Excuse the pun, the tension must have been high at this point.
Yeah, it was about 170 kilograms, actually. No.
Secure for flight operations at 300 meters.
Look at that view.
It is beautiful.
And here we are at 300 meters.
Yeah.
And look at the antennas. Look how incredible they look as well. Did a good job there.
They are extraordinary, those antennas. Of course, they have to be fitted upside down on the aerostat, compared to on a normal telecoms tower.
Bringing telecoms to the skies.
Absolutely.
Hello, Mickey. Mickey?
Gregory, you're not calling me from where I think you're calling me, are you?
Well, actually, I am. We've finally got it going. We've done it. This is me from Africa calling over the World Mobile Cell. How about that?
This is brilliant news. Well done. A lot of hard work went into that. This is the first commercial telephone call on an aerostat in the world, I believe.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, a lot of people have put a lot of time, effort, and energy into it. That's for sure. But it's a really emotional moment, actually, Mickey. You've put everything into this, and everybody has. And so I'm very happy to be able to make this call to you today. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do it.
Thank you, and yeah, it's a wonderful moment for us, and it's not just me, it's all of us, the team, the community, the sharing economy, and this is one big moment for World Mobile.
Absolutely, but yeah, we've got quite a few phone calls we're going to be making over the next hour or so to a number of different people, just to make sure that everybody knows we've done it. But the first one had to be to you. It's the weather is beautiful. The aerostat is beautiful. Yeah, it's a great day.
Epic news. Fantastic part of my day. Thank you very much. Keep up the smashing good work and say hi to everybody there. And
all right. Thank you very much indeed. Take care.
Thank you very much, baby. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
That was such a beautiful moment. And Gregory, tell us a little bit more about, what was it on the ground there?
Well, you said it was emotional for you. It was emotional for me making the phone call because one of the reasons many of us become involved in World Mobile is not because of the huge salaries, not huge. It's because we believe in what we're doing. And I think that it's easy to lose sight of that when you're engaged in something that is commercially very successful, which World Mobile definitely is, and increasingly so. We need to focus back on our roots, which is to change people's lives, to bring them the connectivity that they richly deserve, but cannot get any other way. And so when we went to this little village in Mozambique, which was, really impoverished, and we brought all of this modern technology and this team of people in very challenging conditions, both in terms of weather and you couldn't just go and buy a tool in the local tool shop. It was a 5-hour drive to Maputo to buy something.
You don't want to forget everything, right?
No, so we had to have everything with us.
Yeah.
And then we launched it and we started providing services locally. And even though it was very limited because it was a demonstration and a trial, it wasn't a full operational service. People were so warm and friendly and enthusiastic. And it was very moving to see their support and enthusiasm for this project. And I'm looking forward to my next opportunity to go back there to see them all again. It was an amazing moment. And I think there are other examples in Africa of where World Mobile has really changed people's lives. And it's a privilege to be part of that organization.
Yeah, I think that resonates very well with me. I think with a lot of people in the community, and that's what makes World Mobile very, very unique and different. And it's as Mickey, Mickey managed to rally the troops because deep down there is a mission. It is such a beautiful,
It's an inspiring story that makes people want to participate, want to be a part of it, and
absolutely.
It's a great
and
thing.
we all understand that we're a company and we have to make money, and so we're very focused on the U.S. market where there are equally challenging problems. But I think it's hard to see that we're going to be able to make as much of a change to people's lives in America as we can in the developing world. And so, yes, we need to focus on America. We need to get it done in America so that the company is successful. And then we can afford to go and open up all of these new, challenging
to bring everybody else with us.
Parts of the world, which are sparsely populated. And that's what I'm really keen to reach, the point at which we have ubiquitous coverage. And that's one of the reasons for going to the stratospheric systems, by the way. Anyway, sorry.
So is the aerostat in Mozambique, is that still operational, or is that sort of been packed down now? Yeah.
No, we finished all the work we needed to do
all the
with it.
testing,
We did the tests and the trials. But, for the reasons I've alluded to, aerostats are not inexpensive to operate. And yes, there's absolutely a place for them in the family of solutions that World Mobile is putting together. But what we have to do is pick those geographical locations, those economic situations very carefully. And what we did, we achieved our aim. We did what we said on the tin, so to speak. We launched and operated the aerostat, and it may still be showing on Google Earth, by the way. But the reality is that I can't exactly remember which month it was. We concluded our trials. We did the work we set out to do. We said, okay, thank you very much. We still provide some services in that village, but not using the aerostat, using other more standard systems, because, once we go into a community, we don't want to abandon them and say very much goodbye. And so we still have a connection to the village, to the local area, but it's no longer by providing services with the aerostat, because it's a very rural area. And it would not be feasible in that specific environment, especially through the telecoms equipment that we were using on it, which was fairly basic, to provide the level of service that would enable us to cover the costs.
And just the ongoing maintenance and
and the people you need for a conventional aerostat as well. You have to train them, and
the ground crew.
It's a whole thing. But the point is that there is a role for aerostats, and we proved it, we demonstrated it, and I'm sure more aerostats will appear over time in the future. But in the meantime, we're focused on other options. We spent a period of time looking at drones in quite some detail, and we have some drone solutions that we're ready to fire up as and when they're needed. And we, in parallel, and by the way, our flirtation with the stratosphere isn't a recent thing. I mean, one of the first things that happened in early 2023 during my first 3 months was that we joined the HAPS Alliance, high altitude. There are two versions: high altitude platform station or high altitude platform system. You'll hear both versions of the acronym used. But the HAPS Alliance is a group of companies all involved in stratospheric communication systems and survey systems and so on, either developing platforms, or there are a number of telco companies that are members of it. And we are looking as an organization in the HAPS Alliance at developing the regulatory environment so that as soon as these aircraft are available, whether lighter than air, heavier than air, we are allowed legally to operate them. And we've managed the issue of cross-border operations through controlled airspace and so on. And so that's work that we contribute to in World Mobile. But we do it quite a lot through the HAPS Alliance, because it has a much bigger influence than just one company.
I see. So the main aim there is then just sort of smoothing the way for when they are a commercially viable option. I see.
Yeah, and that's very soon now. Which is why we made the announcement when we did.
Yeah, it seems there's been some fairly recent advances in this sort of space in the last 5-10 years, right?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, some materials advances and. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, and then maybe from that we can lead into the system that World Mobile is looking at, and sort of how that. I guess we'd like to get into a little bit of the history of how that sort of connection with Protelindo came about, and how this whole sort of deal and acquisition of the tech came about.
So before we jump into this, I'm very curious to understand. We've had other trials with aerostats, I think in America, in the Middle East, maybe. So are you saying that we are ready now in a sense that once the regulations are all in place, we have now perfected the art of the aerostat kind of thing, or is that?
We have done all the work we need to do to be ready to deploy a commercially viable aerostat relatively quickly. Not instantly. We don't have one sitting on a shelf somewhere waiting to be deployed, but we know who we would go to. We know what it would cost. We know what the operating costs would be. We know what radio equipment we would put onto it, how we would operate and manage that radio equipment. We know the sorts of population densities and physical footprints on the ground that would be ideally suited to an aerostat operation. And so, as and when we need to deploy one, we can.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the full picture of how the envelope of what using an aerostat would look like, the economics and all of that. And so if that fits in with any particular place we come across, then that possibility is there ready to go.
Yes, and we see all of the aerial platforms that we've been looking at over the last few years as complementary to each other, not competing with each other. The reason we went with aerostats first, then looked at drones, and now we're focused a lot on the stratosphere, is because of the different operating environments. Aerostats operate, the ones we're going to be operate up to around 3,500 feet, about 1,000 meters above the ground, where the atmosphere is very well understood. It's what I would describe as general aviation territory. Airliners fly higher than that generally. Light aircraft fly at that altitude. And so we do know a lot about it. We know the temperatures, the wind conditions, the sort of weather that you get in that part of the atmosphere. But the stratosphere is a wholly different ballgame. It's a very hostile environment. The air is incredibly thin in the stratosphere. The sweet spot for operating these platforms, which, by the way, are referred to as HAPS platforms, not drones, not aircraft, but HAPS platforms, is the sweet spot is between about 60,000 feet or 20 kilometers and 70,000 feet, 25, 26 kilometers. And why is that? That's because 90% of the weather occurs below that altitude. So you don't have to worry too much about clouds. You don't have to worry too much about weather patterns changing and so on. It's relatively stable and consistent and predictable. Above that altitude, above 70,000 feet, you get into some extremely high winds, but also extremely thin air. It's already very thin at 60,000 feet. Hence the huge wingspan that we have to create enough lift to stay in the air. It's 56 meters from end to end, which is bigger.
So you'd run into much more engineering challenges just to try and sustain a vehicle.
But it's not just the thin air that is the challenge. It's the fact that you actually get cosmic radiation penetrating.
I was about to ask about the radiation load up there as well, and the deterioration of materials under that exposure and that sort of thing.
It's a solvable problem, but it's one that you need to be aware of. But the much more difficult problem that you do need to deal with is the fact that because the atmosphere is so thin, heat does not dissipate through the air very easily. Added to the fact that because you're so high up in the atmosphere, solar radiation is incredibly strong, but the temperature of the atmosphere is very low. And so you have this strange situation where you can have an electronic component, which on one side of the electronic component is at about 140, 150 degrees Celsius. And on the other side of the component, it's at minus 10 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I guess this is an advantage with the over the sort of stationary type, relatively stationary, let's say, stratospheric vehicles compared to the ones that are flying along, moving. You get a little bit more of a cooling effect on the systems.
To be very honest, it's negligible. Right. I mean, we'll be operating at something between 120 and 140 knots. Which is, what's that? It's about 200 kilometers an hour, something like that.
Okay.
And that's air speed, not ground speed. the
so
ground
the
speed
air
of
is
it
just
much
thin,
higher.
that thin that it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Exactly right. So you have to come up with really clever ways of cooling components
I see.
and dissipating the heat. And that is part of the whole design cycle.
But most of it has been already, I mean, well studied, I think, through satellites, because them satellites components as well, electronics in satellites do have to cater for that solar flare and those temperature
but
concerns.
in anything from low Earth orbit above,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry too much about drag, because although in low Earth orbit you do get some drag from the few air atoms that are right at the top of the atmosphere, it's negligible. So you can hang huge, great radiators out of your low Earth orbit satellite to dissipate heat, and to, and you can use exotic sort of chemical solutions to cooling satellites down as well. But yeah, from the radiation point of view and from the heating point of view, it's similar. What they don't have to do, of course, is fly. They sit. The reality is that they're traveling extremely quickly and falling all the time, which is how an orbit works. But we're not in orbit. We're not in thick air that makes it easy to fly. So in addition to the challenges that satellites face, we have this very thin air problem, which means you have to have very special propellers, you have to have very special wings, and it's a whole different environment. And there are quite a number of members of the HAPS Alliance who have had platforms in the stratosphere, and there's a huge learning curve, and the community as a whole is moving to a point at which those lessons have been learned, and these are becoming more and more economically or technically achievable and economically viable.
Yeah, this is where I wanted to go to, because it feels that the industry has evolved very fast in the last 10 years or so, and there's quite a few players. We've got Airbus, SoftBank that's got a solution. I think using solar. There's Thales.
SoftBank have funded a solution.
Yeah, SoftBank are funding a few different
funded,
versions
via HAPS Mobile, but obviously I think it's they all, I think, have pretty much a different way of tackling that problem.
We have a short list of countries that we want to work in at any given time, some in Africa, some in the developed world, some in Asia. And Indonesia, as an archipelago of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of islands, has always been on our go-to list. But it's so big and such a huge market that it required a massive effort to get into that market. And we weren't ready to make that effort because our focus recently has been the USA and some other markets in Africa. But then when we discovered the opportunity to acquire these assets and IP, we immediately thought of Protolindo as one of the biggest telco infrastructure companies in Asia. They are a tower company in Indonesia, and they provide services to a range of different customers. They work very closely with the Indonesian government, and they are part of a group of companies that is one of the most impressive and largest groups in Indonesia. And so we thought, well, it makes absolute sense for us to look at what ultimately is a customer for these services to work with us to get it over the line. Because the team at Stratospheric Platforms had ticked all of the boxes they needed to tick, but they needed quite a substantial additional cash investment to get it over the line. Yeah. And so because of this opportunity to start with all of the pre-existing IP, but at the same time with a sort of blank sheet of paper. It means we, with Protolindo and with others, incidentally, can carry this across the line to commercial viability. And so the vast majority of the R&D is done. Now we just need to demonstrate it, prove it, again in a sort of holistic sense, because each element of what we're doing has been proven.
But separately, individually,
So it looks like the whole phase array thing came out of the scientists at Caltech. They sort of went, we're going to commercialize. Not Caltech, sorry. Cambridge. Yeah, my bad. I'll be shot for that one.
No, you're just having a Cambridge degree removed, that's all.
So it came out of Cambridge, and they want to commercialize it, right? And then they start getting onto the other engineering problems, and you probably have the business people come in and take over. It's like, well, we need power up there. We need a lot of power. And so then it was the hydrogen tank thing. The
whole design philosophy, which is interesting. If you look at the majority of HAPS platforms flying today, they started out as an idea for a HAPS platform. Now, that may sound self-evident, but it's not. Because if you begin by saying, okay, we want to fly something in the stratosphere, the first thing you conclude, it's got to be very light. Okay, so if it's got to be very light, what's the lightest way we can build something that will fly in the stratosphere? Then you say, okay, solar power, because then you don't need to carry, heavy
batteries and
fuel and
And then you say, okay, well, we've built this massive, aircraft that can fly around the world in one hit in the stratosphere. How much can it carry? 5 kilograms.
Not much.
All right. So what can we do with 5 kilograms?
Yes.
Well, you could put a 5G cell in 5 kilograms, but it won't be able to connect many people. And so
you could fly a cat around the world,
Right. Well, it couldn't breathe. You need
one very unhappy cat.
Yeah. So fortunately, these 4 professors took a fundamentally different approach, and the people who were running the company after them right up until now. And our approach is fundamentally different, as has been the case with our approach to terrestrial-based telecommunications, which is you start with the economics. What's the requirement? What's the demand? What's the most effective way of servicing that demand? And how do we create something that will do that in the most efficient way possible? They said, okay, what's the best way of connecting 500,000 people over 15,000 square kilometers? And there are 2 solutions. You put up between 450 and 500 towers, actually more than 2 solutions. Or you launch a satellite, or you do this, or you do that. And they concluded that actually to connect 500,000 people, you need a lot of power. I mean, a really large amount of power. So immediately, in the very early days, they ruled out solar power, either in space or in the atmosphere. Because while solar power is wonderful and great advances have been made in solar power, what you need is a flying power station. But in the near term, in the medium term, and anything but the very long term, to put a flying power station either in orbit or in the atmosphere, you need, firstly, a super efficient fuel. Secondly, you need, if it's in the atmosphere, it needs to be very environmentally sustainable. And thirdly, you need it to be able to create, not only have a high energy density, hence the efficiency of the fuel, but you need to be able to translate that high energy density both into the ability to fly and in the ability to create oodles of electricity for your radio systems. And so from the economics, they said, okay, 500,000 people is a good number, 15,000 square kilometers is a good space. We need a power station. It needs to be in the atmosphere. What's the most benign part of the atmosphere? The stratosphere. No weather. Don't need to worry about weather. Okay, so how can we put a power station into the stratosphere? By designing a bloody great airplane. So the hydrogen technology is the part of the IP that I can actually talk least about, but it is some of the cleverest work that these scientists did. And it has implications far beyond this project that we're doing.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's mostly around sort of getting a lightweight tank that doesn't need the vacuum, and something about simplifying also the how the hydrogen is coming out of that tank or something, simplifying the fittings and reducing the weight and stuff. But I have a question around, so you've got the liquid hydrogen up there in this vessel, and is it being powered, is it just fuel cell going straight to electricity, or is there some combustion with...
There is no fuel cell at all.
Yeah, okay.
It is using the hydrogen to power a reciprocating engine. So there's combustion.
But yeah, that's what I figured. A fuel cell
very
just
efficient.
Yeah.
And so the hydrogen combusting produces one waste product, and one waste product only, and that is water. Yeah. But the cleverness of the hydrogen IP is that hydrogen exists in two forms, gaseous or liquid. If it's in gaseous form, to contain any quantity, it has to be under extreme pressure, which means you have to have an incredibly strong pressure vessel. And from an aircraft certification point of view, that's really not an option, because if something goes wrong, you have to look at all of the safety case, you have to look at the failure modes, and extreme high pressure in any aircraft is not something you want to have.
Yeah.
So secondly, you can have it as a liquid. And liquid hydrogen exists at some incredibly low temperature, which I don't know off by heart, but it's only a few degrees above absolute zero, which means that inevitably it will boil off, unless the normal way to store hydrogen is to put a lot of electricity into cooling it. And so what these scientists did is they found a way to store liquid hydrogen in usable quantities at relatively low pressure for long periods of time with no energy input to keep it cool.
That's cool.
So so it's a cryogenic storage with some specialized insulation and stuff.
No, I can't even go that far. I would just say it uses materials technology. It uses clever physics.
Okay.
It uses a range of different elements.
It's top secret IP that World Mobile partly owns.
Top secret IP that World Mobile purchased. But we will make it available to the car industry, the airline industry, and everybody else who eventually, I'm sure, will want to use it.
Wow.
But for us, the focus is using it on this HAPS platform.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've tried. We can see here on the screen that this is what it is. Yeah, that's that kind of ball here.
That's a test reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is the HAPS itself. This is a render. So as I understand, we've tested the antennas. We've tested the hydrogen part of it. Have we tested maybe in a smaller scale the overall solution yet, or not?
Okay, so we've tested the antenna. We've tested the hydrogen on the ground. We've tested the airworthiness of the antenna. We've done 5G calls from the stratosphere. When I say we, I'm talking about the
the previous.
We own all of that data. The aircraft, the one you see rendered there, is at a stage in its design cycle where the next step is to build it and fly it.
Wow. Okay. So
building and flying aircraft of this scale in a civilian airspace environment, is eye-wateringly expensive. And so our team, and that's why stratospheric platforms came to a sort of grinding halt. our team is well positioned to say, okay, guys, this is the next step. This is the step after. So we've got an intermediate step. We haven't pressed the green button on building this and flying it just yet. We have one more step that we need to do. And last 2 weeks, I've been working on this with the team full time. And we are very fortunate to have the support of a company called BT, which used to be called British Telecom. But their test facilities in the UK are second to none. And they're so enthusiastic about what we're doing that they have stepped up to the table and offered us their full support for all of the testing we need to do, which is amazing. And so working with them and with others, one of our suppliers is a well-known developer of both hardware and software called Cambridge Consulting, located, guess where? In Cambridge. They've been supporting the program for a long time, but those two companies plus a small aircraft manufacturer called Britten Norman, who have been working on the program for a while. We will be pulling all the strings together over the next year, slightly under a year, because obviously the work stopped when stratospheric platforms went into their little period of difficulty. And we are just pressing the green light on restarting the work. So we've lost probably about 6 months, unfortunately, but that's been inevitable. And now we're ready to press the green light on that initial phase of work. And what that will do is it will put a working antenna with a downlink attached to the core of a network, courtesy of BT, operating as high as the little airplane that we're going to put the antenna on can fly, which is 22,000 feet, with the pilots on oxygen because it's not pressurized. And we will pull all the strings together, and we'll have a modest number of cells on the ground, which we will use our AI software to operate and manage and steer, and complete the integrated holistic testing of the entire system. We will invite lots of people to come and witness that demonstration, which will be in the UK. And the plan is, after that, to take that airplane with the antenna fitted and go visit some of our customers and potential customers around the world. Of course, Indonesia is on that list because Protolindo, our partners, they'll come to England to see what we do with BT, but they'll want to do it again in Indonesia. And so we'll facilitate that for them. But several countries along the way and beyond, you'll probably be able to get into your car and come and have a look at one of the demonstrations from where you are.
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
And so
Australia.
We have a series of cunning plans to spread the word as fast as possible. That doesn't mean we won't have started building this bigger aircraft by then. It means that the sort of critical path on our program line is to pull all of these strings together. Yes, 5G has been demonstrated from the stratosphere. Yes, the phased array antenna has been demonstrated. Yes, the data link has been demonstrated. Yes, the aircraft design is validated. The certificate path to full controlled airspace certification has been validated. All of the pieces of the puzzle are in place, but they've all been done individually. We've now got to put it all together.
Nice. That sounds very exciting.
It's very exciting, and it is going to change a lot of different things in a lot of ways. I've talked about the interest that I anticipate in the hydrogen technology from other industries. And I sort of threw out a couple of industries that I think will be interested in it. But it's not just that. I mean, our stratospheric platform is highly capable. It can carry up to 650 kilograms of payload.
All right, that's quite a lot more than I was, led to
The
believe.
the current array.
Just compare that
Yeah.
to the 15 kilograms or so that I think Zephyr carried. Or, it's different, and therefore, and it has an initial endurance of around 7 or 8 days. We're looking to extend that fairly substantially in future generations of it. But think of that platform for agritech. If we're not using it for telecommunications, think what agritech could do, monitoring these vast areas of farmland. Think of what environmental monitoring scientists can do with it. Think of what mining survey people can do with it.
Yeah, in Australia, we monitor the Great Barrier Reef as well, using satellite imagery or some other techniques.
I'm not saying it's either or. It's not either you're doing telecommunications
or you could do both at once.
You can do both at once.
Also, the economics are even better then.
There may be applications where an agritech company comes to us and says, we want to buy 3 of your platforms to monitor our vast, field, each plant in our vast fields. Because satellites currently do that, but the resolution they achieve is not as good as we will be able to achieve. So there are vast other markets. And there's a whole other sort of market potential for government use, which, obviously we can't go into. But it's not, it hasn't passed us by that this has a longer endurance than Global Hawk.
I always say, the team at World Mobile, Mickey and the team is always 5 to 10 years ahead of its time. Right. And I think you would testify to this, that you guys are looking so far ahead.
Well, I think what I would add to that is that this acquisition of IP and assets and the hiring of the team who were working on it over the last several years has not been in isolation. I mean, we joined the HAPS Alliance in early 2023. Part of my job as head of aerial platforms was to know what was going on in the HAPS community and to do my research into the various future providers of HAPS capabilities. And SPL Stratospheric Platforms was on my list of companies to watch. We, at that stage, were looking at them as suppliers, along with all the others. Companies like Sky and Airbus, Alto HAPS, the Airbus company is called. And there are others. But we had jealously watched these companies doing their amazing work and thought, well, we've missed the first mover advantage. And then this opportunity came up, and immediately we've been catapulted to the front of the race.
Yeah, I got to say, I was very surprised that World Mobile managed to, get its foot in the door with this. I would have thought there would have been other big players looking for that same sort of opportunity. So it was a little bit of a shock to me, and
they were,
I hope a nice shock.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, yeah.
And by the way, I was talking to one of the senior people at Cambridge Consulting the other day, and he told us that when these 4 scientists came to Cambridge Consulting in around the 2014-15 timescale and said, we want you to do this contract of physical hardware manufacturing for us and doing some of the physical layout of antennas and so on. The team at Cambridge felt that these 4 scientists and the teams that followed them were well over a decade ahead of their time in the way they were thinking about doing this. Most recently, I met them in Cambridge a few days ago and had a quiet chat in the margins with one of the Cambridge consulting guys who said, look, the extraordinary thing is this work is still a decade ahead of everybody else. And that's quite an accolade from a company.
That's what I've been able to gather, is that this phased array is way ahead. It's world leading in terms of what its capabilities are compared to the other attempts I've seen. Yeah.
But it's actually the unique combination of the three areas of IP that you referred to at the beginning. That gives the commercial
array,
strength.
Yeah, and the hydrogen. So, did those scientists also at that sort of same time, did they have this idea for the hydrogen storage and all of that, or did that have to come later as a necessity for the engineering?
It was part of their design strategy. Economics.
I see.
Flying power station. Hydrogen has got to be the fuel. How do we store the hydrogen? What do we put it in?
Yeah.
And actually, the hydrogen storage was one of the earlier things that they were working on, because
you
can't store the hydrogen in the stratosphere in an aircraft. You can't do the job. The aircraft, there's a limited amount we can say about it. What I can say is that it is a commercial design. It is not subject to any country's export restrictions for reasons of defense or sensitivity or anything like that. It has deliberately been kept as a commercial design, but it has dual use future applications.
Sure.
And so we will work very hard to maintain that status. We have, the previous team have been working with what I can only describe as a large, well-known aircraft manufacturer.
So it's not secret UFO technology, this plane. That's what
it's not. It does not come from outer space. It does not come from outer space.
Steve is very interested in about your encounters with UAP, Gregory.
So,
can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you must know all the juicy secrets. You must know all the juicy secrets of the UAP UFO phenomenon. Working in the aerospace industry, tied with the military, we think you've got secrets, and we want you to spill the beans.
My wife asked me if I had ever been to Area 51.
All right.
Not only could I not answer that, but I had to say that I know people who've been to Area 51. But if I had been, I couldn't say yes, but I haven't. But yeah, in a past life, when I was working for Boeing, I saw some extraordinary things, really extraordinary.
Do tell, do tell.
But I mean, colleagues of mine from Boeing went on to work for other big aerospace companies around the world. And so, I have a quite nice network of people I can call. And actually, the company that designed this aircraft for stratospheric platforms, 100% of the IP being now owned by us, not by the company that designed it, is a company in which I know a bunch of people. Yeah.
So you're saying the design is there,
but it's not Boeing. Sorry,
it's not Boeing. Yeah. We have the design, and really all we're going to do is implement the manufacturing of that aircraft.
Yeah, someone's got to write a check, which we will do when we're ready to do it. Because once we write that check, there is a fixed predicted timeline, and so we need to do the small aircraft demonstration. We need to get everybody comfortable with the unique combination of everything working together, integrated into a proper telco network, and not interfering with any cells on the ground. So there are probably some software tweaks that will be needed, a few months' work. But with an aircraft like this is bigger than some airliners. 56 meters is a big wingspan.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
You can't just build them and have them sitting there waiting for commercial use. You have to time it so that they're dropping off the shelf as fully certified aircraft with all of the systems fitted
and making money. And where are you going to launch these things from?
To be used.
Like it's not going to be it's not going to be at the local international airport, right? It's going to be at some smaller airfields where there's a bit of space around and you can sort of rent a reasonable amount of space, because you'll need a ground crew, right? You need at least 2 of these things going to start with to, cover each other for the dead time.
Well, I mean, we've looked at several different geographies around the world. And you can absolutely provide a service with 2 aircraft. But most of the areas we're looking at, you need at least 9 or 10 to provide a meaningful coverage on a continuing basis, allowing for.
And I would think that would be getting close to a full-time ground crew, one place, constantly servicing, refueling, maintenance, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And also because these will operate through controlled airspace. And this is another challenge. You're building something that is
the way up and down
for operating at 60,000 plus feet. But it's also got to operate in weather. It's got to operate. It's got to talk to air traffic controllers. It's got to avoid other aircraft. It's got to do all of the things that any certified aircraft does. And I mean, we have some very clever people in the new team we've brought on, some of whom come from an aerospace background, not a telecommunications background, because actually, operating this type of aircraft is not something that anybody without a background in aerospace can contemplate. And the senior team in World Mobile is rapidly learning a lot about certification, quality build standards, tool control, things that are bread and butter in aerospace, but don't necessarily read across into telecommunications. There are some specifics that are as yet to be evolved, but what I can tell you is that we have a pretty good idea of what each aircraft will cost to buy.
Well, that's good, because there's a lot of people out there that want to know when they can buy one. When can I buy when can I buy an Air Node?
An Air Node, yeah.
A true Air Node. Yeah.
A true.
A Strato Node, yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good one. Thank you. Well, I'll get Mickey to give you a reward for that. No.
Strato Node.
Yeah. But no, okay, so we have a pretty good idea of the cost of an aircraft. We have a pretty good idea of what ground infrastructure is needed to support it in terms of hydrogen storage, people, maintenance. We have, therefore, a good idea of what it will cost to operate. And we have a good idea of the sort of coverage it will offer in terms of revenue generation. There's a term that you guys in telco use that...
ARPU, average revenue per user. Yeah.
Right. So that is well understood for the various different environments in which this is going to be debuted. And so we have some thoughts on the path to full commercialization, but we haven't yet, fixed it. It's not a done deal. So once we press the button on the aircraft, it'll be flying about 18 months from that point. Commercial service will follow. I've heard different figures, but maybe 6 to 12 months after that. So this is not a tomorrow thing. It's a day after tomorrow. But what we will be able to offer with the Defender aircraft, the little Britten-Norman thing, with the smaller version of the antenna, is commercial services to boutique markets. So
I see. So the testing that you're intending to do soon is on a existing commercial aircraft. And I see. Okay. So it's not powered by hydrogen.
That aircraft may become those aircraft rather than that aircraft, potentially. And once we've done all of the testing and we have proven everything that I said we had to, pull everything together and demonstrate it, not only using BT's facilities here in the UK, but across the market community around the world, it has some specific uses that we can put it to. So, for example, disaster relief. If you have a network go down, we can, if we have one of these stationed reasonably close by, we can launch it and fly it for multiple hours at a time, not a week, obviously, because there are pilots on board. But, multiple hours at a time. If we have two, we can relief in place. And we can sell services to existing networks to plug gaps whilst they run around on the ground. In addition to that, if you have a big event, which is going to, you now have another
a lot of people in a small area that you need to cover, or not necessarily a small area, but
a bigger area than a truck solution would cover. So those sorts of applications will happen. Looking at remote mining operations, where you have hundreds of square kilometers of working people in a remote environment, where you have all of the health and safety issues which require you to have constant communications. There's an existing solution, which is satellite phones or satellite communications, but let's look at how we can cost this or price this to support those sorts of activities as well. So there are a number of little niche markets that the defender or the defenders might be able to provide early service in, whilst the big aircraft comes along as quickly as we can make it. But developing and certifying airliner-sized aircraft, it is not something you do in a few weeks.
Yeah,
sure.
We haven't mentioned, but I think for those who don't know, we are capable with this antenna to actually speak directly to a mobile phone without any direct to cell. So without any additional equipment, because the latency is like sub 6 milliseconds, I think, or it's really, really low latency, and that is the big difference with the satellites, where I think I was reading that Starlink can offer that direct to cell, but it takes I think 10 minutes to receive an SMS currently. But it's so that we're talking about a real mobile service.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's real mobile
indistinguishable service. Really from ground service. Yeah,
exactly, indistinguishable from ground service. The bandwidth and the capacity has been designed and engineered to enable many thousands of video calls concurrently through one platform. And I think you were talking about people wanting to buy one of these aircraft. Actually, there are things that you can buy that are smaller than the aircraft, because don't forget, this antenna illuminates roughly 450 individual cells. So in theory, each cell, because each cell is passing data through the blockchain, could be a unique.
So you could basically, Hicks Gardner kind of buy one of the cells of the array. Yeah.
That's something that we've started to talk about. Yeah.
There was an interesting question that came up from somebody on Telegram. I'm sorry, I don't remember who you were. But they were asking about, they were sort of like mentioning, look, when I'm on the train, my phone is always cutting in and out because we're moving so fast and we're going through so many cells. Could this help? And I'm thinking, you could probably control one of the cells to, track a moving vehicle. You'd have to, of course, have the other beam shaping move the other cells and stuff out of the way as you come through. But it could be done mathematically. I mean, you'd need to have the data feeding to it as well. But
you don't need to do it. Here's why. A big part of the key technology in the software that has been developed is to ensure that as you go from one to the next of these 450 cells that this single antenna illuminates, it is a completely seamless transition. So unlike...
Does that mean that part of the frequency that's being used, sort of when it's going from one cell to another, just ends up moving into the next cell or something? Is that roughly how it works?
You know, you're talking to the head of aerial platforms and not a telco engineer. Right?
I'm sorry.
I
can think of some ways of doing it, but anyway.
Speculate, but I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
What I feel from some discussions I've had with other members of the World Mobile team, there have in the past been efforts to create lots of beams, and each beam follows a user on the ground.
I see.
And that's been one of the things that people looked at in previous, not in this project, in previous projects. This doesn't do that. It specifically doesn't do that because it doesn't need to. So you cover an area. So, for example, one of the graphics taken out of the modeling software that I've seen is one of these platforms over central London. And if you've been to the UK, you'll know that London is surrounded by a motorway called the M25, which is something like 110 miles long.
I haven't, but is that like a ring road that goes around
it's
the
a
whole...
ring road around London, but it's 110 miles long, so it's quite a way out of London.
Yeah.
And so they did some modeling and found that they could illuminate the entire motorway, but nothing else. So you have this...
Wow, very precise.
Yeah, very precise corridor of signal on the motorway.
So even flying at 200
with
kilometers...
multiple beams, though, right? Like
multiple beams.
Tracking around
if you're on a car on your phone, it will be a seamless single connection.
But the handoff between cells there's something going on. There's some trick there that's seamless.
But it will be transparent to the user. And so if you go 100 meters off the motorway, you don't get coverage. But on the motorway, you get coverage. So there are lots of things you can do. Lots of their shapes can be any shape you like. And also, by the way, the 15,000 square kilometers is based on 5G. You
right, so you can go to 4G, learn it, and get larger areas.
And you get a much larger piece of real estate.
Yeah. Is the array designed to operate at other frequencies ranges as well, or
I can't answer that because I know the answer. It's yes, but don't ask me any more detail.
Okay. Yeah.
And actually, the something that I probably should have said right at the beginning. We've looked at multiple different platforms. The platforms are nothing more than trucks. It's a truck. The important bit is the antenna and the RF piece. And all the platform is doing is putting it in the optimum location to maximize its utility on the ground.
What sort of backhaul will those planes have? So utilize ground stations, or
they can have multiple types of backhaul. They are designed to handle a range of different types of backhaul. So they can include ground stations using fairly commercial off-the-shelf backhaul systems, but maybe multiple ground stations. You can use satellites. Beaming up. You can put the data into a broader sort of mesh network of
to an aerostat or something,
whatever you like,
and a combination thereof, right? So
you could
combination
thereof.
So there's a future where we could potentially have like a Starlink or a Project Kuiper potentially asking us to offload some of the service.
And in fact, the work that some of our team members were involved with in North Carolina after their disaster demonstrated the utility of air nodes on the ground working alongside satellite links like Starlink, where instead of having to put a Starlink in every house, you put a Starlink in a community, and then everybody else has access to an air node.
But these would be even better, even quicker deploy for disaster areas and stuff, right? It's just satellite to the aerostat, the stratospheric platform, and then it's straight to your phone. Yeah.
So the potential is, I was going to say limitless, but I'm sure somebody will think up of a
We've got one planet so far, so
yeah. Well, right. Unfortunately, we need an atmosphere to operate this, so we're not going to be operating this on the moon.
Yeah, but that's okay because I'm pretty good with breathing,
But other than that, there are lots of things. In the past, we've looked at the blue economy in Africa, connecting fishing vessel fleets and cruise liners. You could sit one of these aircraft over the Mediterranean, and you could direct these cells to each of the cruise ships around the Mediterranean, give them all superb connectivity.
Same
lots
thing
of
for the
different things.
Caribbean, individual super yachts and things.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that would be expensive, but they wouldn't care.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, mobile connecting everyone.
Well,
Indeed,
that's
yes.
right. I think in light of a recent announcement, it may be that we have to have every single basketball court in America with a beam illuminating it. If you're familiar
Tristan
with
would love this.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating, Gregory. We really, really appreciate all the the insight you've offered us, and I think the community would really love it, because it's something that's just so spectacular, really, and that's
there's been a lot of excitement, a lot of questions.
Excitement.
So I think everybody will be very pleased to hear some of this.
One of the things that that part of the community that heard me talk about the aerostat in Mozambique may also recognize that I do not overpromise, and I would rather be realistic in what I can say might happen in the future, which is why the timescales I've talked about are not tomorrow; they're the day after tomorrow. We've got to be realistic about this. This is a major project that we're part way through, and we're committed to. And with our partners, Protolindo, we have the resources to make it happen, and we will absolutely get there. The partners outside those that I've been able to mention so far, who are scrambling around to get us permission to use their names, but we can't yet. They are impressive companies. These are companies that are, in some cases, household names in their specialist areas, and they're not going to overpromise either. And so if they tell us they can do it, I'm 100% confident that the timescales I've outlined are realistic, achievable, and something very much to look forward to. And I hope that we will be able to provide, updates on a regular basis as to how all of this is proceeding, so that people can follow its progress and any new developments that happen along the way, and we can not only encourage the community to look closely at what we're doing here, but also potentially to get involved along the way.
Yeah, and feel free to jump on the podcast anytime to give us some updates.
An update sometime. That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
We would love this. But it's very clear that World Mobile is transforming people's lives, but also right now, I think, transforming a whole industry and bringing new capabilities, new capacities to, as you mentioned, to a variety of different industries. And Australia is definitely in desperate need, with the vast land that we've got of such technologies, and I can see so many applications to it. So this is just such a beautiful future that you just painted here.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share with the community, Gregory, before we?
I'd like to thank World Mobile for having the courage to take this huge step. Because, when I brought this opportunity to the table and said to Mickey and Alan and the others, look, there is this opportunity, but it's not inexpensive. They could have said, well,
it's a big dream, but it's not a small dream, right?
Let's wait and be a client of theirs, in the future. But they didn't. Yeah. They immediately saw the potential. They said, let's do it. And so working with various members of the senior team, we've been able to put it together, create the partnership with Protolindo, and push on with this opportunity. And I'd like to thank all of the World Mobile team for enabling that to happen and having faith in this opportunity.
Yeah, I will second that.
Likewise, and I think the whole community will.
Yep.
Incredible.
If I could just actually have one more question. I for a while now, since the whole World Mobile thing's kicked off with the aerostats, and there's quite a few of us that are waiting for a party in the sky on a Zeppelin type thing with a barbecue. So, what's the ETA on that party that we're?
wearing my other hat as chairman of the Airship Association, I can tell you that there are some exciting opportunities coming up. Funnily enough, in conjunction with another organization I introduced to World Mobile in America, which will enable members of the Airship Association to fly in an airship. And I'm mindful to extend that opportunity to members of the World Mobile community.
Well,
so
I'm
the black
I'm
tea,
ready.
maybe.
I'm ready.
watch this space.
Watch this. We'll watch
Party
the space.
incoming. You heard it here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. On that note, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Gregory.
Reclaim.